to create a new page, similar to panels, if you're used to that, it has a much cleaner interface, and it has the ability to pull in all sorts of different content from around the site. It is kind of a replacement for the block system for the page that Layout Builder is enabled on, and it is a field in the node or whatever it happens to be. So it is actually, it was at least, it probably still is a serialized string in a field that stores all the data about the layout for whatever piece of content it is on. So for editors, it's a really nice drag and drop interface. It makes a lot more intuitive sense than an edit form if you're trying to create something that looks quite a bit fancier than like a news article. You're able to pull in existing content from around the site. You're also able to add new content that is specific to that page. The ideal use case for Layout Builder in our experience is the landing page. So the page like About Us or the home page or these kinds of things. Layout Builder seems to be the really killer feature to help someone who's maybe not as technical create, rearrange, edit those kinds of pages. For the developer, for me personally as a front-end developer, the markup is very sane. I can kind of wrap my head around what's going on. You have sections, which are kind of like rows. Inside of a section, you can create a section that may have a number of columns in it, depending on which template you end up pulling in. And all of that, from a theme level, I found a lot more intuitive than when I first started working on panels, let's say. You can create custom block types in Drupal 8 that'll help you have a much more powerful Layout Builder experience, since you can create blocks that have whatever custom fields you might want. You can also, when you pull in other entities, you get the power of view modes, so you can add something either as full content or a teaser or whatever other kind of view mode you might want. And you're not dependent on whatever CSS or JavaScript comes with it. You can override the CSS specifically and extend whatever behavior is there. And it's really great that this is all in core. As of Drupal 8.7, it is stable. So now it'd be nice if we had like everyone kind of agreeing that this was something to help start building around and help it become more mature. Oh, and actually on lullabot.com, we did replace all of the CSS and the layouts with our own stuff because our designers are very good and very picky. And wonderful, wonderful people. So, goals for lullabot.com. Why did we end up choosing this? One of the big reasons was just to figure out Layout Builder, right? We were interested in giving it a test run. But a big problem with the last version of our website, custom really cool pages were not difficult, but it involved developer time. And our company website, as you might expect, is not billable hours. So we would have to be doing this in our free time, and it created a problem where our new marketing person, Ellie, was unable to create the pages she needed for the efforts that she wanted to put out there. So we wanted to give her the ability to create pages, modify pages, put different features in around the site without having to talk to us about building out functionality or queries or layouts in the former React app we had, which was fun to work on, but also did not have the kind of control that she needed. And so she would have autonomy and reduce the reliance on us being the nerds. And as you might expect at Lullabot, most of us know how to use Drupal, so this was kind of a little bit of a new thing for us, where we're like, oh, someone wants to build pages and they're not a Drupal expert. So that was kind of a fun new challenge for us internally. So what about existing tools? There are things that might solve this problem, and I wanted to kind of talk about real quick why we decided Layout Builder over those. So there's core Drupal. We could have just used templates and created a custom page with a module and then just kind of built things somewhat statically. But then we'd get back to Ellie can't go in and create pages on the fly that she needs now, or just easily modify them potentially. That we'd run into the same problem we had with React, with our implementation. Paragraphs was something that we were going to consider until Karen Stevenson just did a quick proof of concept and was like, oh, layout builder's ready to go. It was around 8.6, I think, when we started. And it just seemed like the thing to go in on and help that become better as it was becoming stable. The nice thing about paragraphs, I think as a front-end developer, it makes intuitive sense. But from a back-end perspective, the performance isn't great. I mean, we have caching and everything. You also have editorial rules that you can create, which is nice. So you can make sure that only this kind of thing can go in this spot. And create kind of, what paragraphs are they able to add in that kind of editorial logic. But it's Ellie, and we trust her quite a bit to run the site. She is the owner of it, so we weren't too worried about that use case. And then panels, I personally try to avoid unless the use case really calls for it, because I find it difficult to train people for from an editorial perspective, and from a development perspective, from a front-end developer's perspective, I've never found it particularly intuitive, the different layers of templating and how to get the right markup out of it has always been not like especially hard, but not as easy as I'd like. So first I want to show you Drupal core and what you get out of the box in 8.7, and my local might be a little bit out of date. If I can find the right window. Okay. There it is. That's Darren's face, and that's his bio, and that's Mark's bio, and my SQL snippets. All right, sorry. There we go. This one. All right. So fresh install. I've done nothing. So the first thing you do if you want to enable Layout Builder, go to the extend page where you see all your modules. You can type in layout. And you can enable Layout Builder, and if you're going to add your own layouts and kind of extend what's there, you want to also enable Layout Discovery. So I'll save that. And then the second thing you need, so now it's enabled, but there's nowhere where you can actually mess with it yet. So the way to enable Layout Builder is to go to a content type. So we'll just use basic page. And then you'll go to the manage display. Along the bottom, you'll find layout options, use layout builder. So if I enable this, I get a new checkbox. So here's what this is saying. So you can say, okay, all pages of this type, like all articles, are going to have this layout from layout builder. So it's effectively replacing your twig file, that your node, full article or whatever file. So if you're more comfortable creating templates in the UI, that's an option you have. This extra checkbox says every single node that's created in this content type can have its own layout. So this is what we did on our site. We basically have a landing page content type, and whenever you create a page in it, it's a free-for-all. Do whatever you want. You have all the tools you need. So I'll save that. And now we're ready to go. So if I go to add content, I'll add a new basic page. So the fields here are still what you expect. It's an edit page. So I'm going to try out Layout Builder. And then we might type some very useful information. And then we can save. So far you're like, well, I don't see anything. You notice there's a layout tab now. So the layout tab is where you can start messing with this. So by default, you have kind of a good kind of like, I want to see the body field, I want to see the title kind of thing. And you can just take that out. So this is the placeholder for the links field. This is the body field. I can go to edit and remove this. On our site, we're not exposing any of the fields in the display, except for maybe the title. We are just, the fields that are in the content type for landing page are more for like SEO or kind of behind the scenes metadata stuff. So here you see add section. Like I said, section's kind of like adding a row, and then each row is going to have regions. And ruffles have ridges. So I can add a 2-column here, and in default Drupal you also get to choose how wide you want these columns. So I could do a 3367, you can add a section, and now we have the ability to add some blocks. And as you notice, you kind of see, if you've seen panels before, this is kind of the same stuff. It's like, here's a laundry list of things you can dump in here, and some of them aren't very useful, like the default translation ID. I don't really want to show that off per se. We also have it whether or not it's published, but we have the title, the revision user, authored by could be useful over here. We have some options that you might expect when you're placing a block that is based on a field. And we also have different blocks from around the site. Since this is a fresh out of the oven Drupal site, there's not a whole lot, but we can add views and things like that, things that would show up on the blocks page. And that's pretty great for out-of-the-box Drupal. This is extremely slick. So let's go check out, unless I have, nope, that was my list of things to do. And a local version, so I'm not, you know, messing it up. Oh, I didn't log in yet. 1 second. I gave myself a login link, but I have not used it. What? Let's try that again. That would have been bad. All right. So we go to the home page. The home page is one of our many landing pages. Just real quick, I can show you the kind of data that we have on this side. So the lead is kind of like sometimes it's well, no, that's a different thing. Slug. Slug is for search. Lead is for something at the top of the page. So that's like the one thing that we expose in the front end. Then we have just some basic stuff that doesn't get used a whole lot. Deck. Deck is the one where it might show in a search result. So if we go to layout, ignore the errors from my local, which is unhappy with me. One thing you'll notice is that the editing experience looks a little different. A challenge with Layout Builder, if you're going to implement it yourself, is that the editorial experience is in your public-facing theme, so you'll need to create a little extra time to make sure that everything looks right, because it could potentially break because your theme isn't set up well enough to handle this editing experience. So we have your regular add a section, so in between each group of things we have the ability to add stuff in between it. So I could add, not there, I could add a section here to show off myself. You'll notice that these layouts are different. They already have prescribed column widths to them. These are the ones that we've added. We're using CSS Grid. I'm actually not sure what core CSS is using out of the box. So I could add a title for my section. And then I could add some, so we added a extension here to, uh-oh, okay. We can add certain classes. So these classes are in a taxonomy, and we're able to say, one's for titles and one's for bodies, and we're able to select them from here. The goal was to make these user-friendly for Ellie, but we didn't get that far. We just imported all of our classes as is. But she's very smart, so no worries. So we could do center text and add a section. All right, so here's my new section. I can add a staff bio, which is a node. This is using no, I'm not going to remember the name. It's coming up in a slide.
Entity browser block.
Entity browser block. Yeah, those buzzwords. So here I can find myself and apply. Select that. At which point I get the option to select my view mode. So I could do a teaser, add that. And then I could also add do a little search there, articles, and we could do article teasers, and we can choose how many items we want in our view block. So very cool little little section there that I just added. And so now if I were to go to view it, it's not showing up yet.
You didn't save it.
I know. I didn't lose it though, which is cool. Just like views, you go away and come back, and it's still there. You didn't, nothing exploded. So then we can either discard changes, revert to defaults, or save the layout. And once we save, I have my lovely new section here with some broken images and some layout oddities. So yeah, we have other blocks that we can add. We have marketing block, real quick, show you that. So that's a special block type that we've added that has special fields. So if I go down here, add another block, oops, and I add a marketing block that is a call to action. It gives me a nice, this is entity browser block as well, right? This UI? Yeah. So sometimes, or at least in 8.6, we had an issue where some of the editing interfaces were coming up in that little sidebar on the right side. And it was really tall, like the body field looked very squished. I'm not sure if they fixed that in 8.7 or if we just, okay, they might have addressed that. So I can add a description, some helpful text, and then very helpful. So this is actually trying to suggest things that are on the website, but I'm not doing that. I'm talking about the best website ever, my personal site, on the home page underneath the section dedicated to me. So yeah. And that comes along with our own templating and style. Respond? Yes? No? There we go. This looks terrible. All right, I can't find it actually, but
I think you didn't save the block.
I apologize. All right, well, we don't need to go over that. I just want to show off that we had a custom block type in there. So, what are some of the customizations we made when we got here? So if you notice, when I went to add a block in the lullabot.com example, it had a lot less things to choose from. Exposing the revision ID or the translation ID aren't things you really need to see. And that's a UX issue, but it's also a responsiveness and load time issue. So we actually created, actually I'll skip around, block blacklist, which prevents things from even being loaded. So when you go to add a block, it doesn't query as many things, so it comes up a lot quicker. This is in contrib. You can go and grab it whenever you want. We also, as I showed, had the taxonomy vocabulary that had all of our classes in it that we could add to titles or body, or the wrapper for the block. This we weren't able to figure out how to contrib. I think 2 or 3 people tried to figure out like a decent way to contribute it back, but it didn't quite make sense. But feel free to kind of implement something similar, not overly tricky. So entity browser and entity browser block is what allowed us to add different entities, nodes, taxonomy terms, anything like that. Let you select what view mode you have. You can add new entities on the fly. You can also look at the library of existing like we showed. Really powerful tool. This isn't specific to Layout Builder though. There are other use cases for this. And we also added, entity browser block layout custom. Actually, I don't remember what that one is.
I think this has to do with
this is the one I was thinking.
user feedback for when you check the box. How does it format?
Right. So yeah, Karen had some UI improvements for the entity browser block that she wants to try and include in the module. So right now it's in a sandbox if anyone wants to use it now, but the goal is to give it to entity browser block folks and make it available just from the module itself instead of having a little styling spin-off module. So resources. We've done this talk I've done this talk a number of times. A number of people have joined me. There are many recordings of it that you can go and look at, but there's also, if you go to lullabot.com/layoutbuilder in the real world, or similarly, you don't necessarily have to remember that URL, you can also go way down, down, down. How we built this site is a footer link there that you can click on, and funnily enough, Karen created this page in Layout Builder right before our DrupalCon talk. So nice and meta. Built a page with Layout Builder talking about Layout Builder. It describes all the modules we use to make the site, not just the Layout Builder ones. Quick Link is one that Mike Herschel made. It's just an integration with an existing library that'll help make page loads faster. It's a really interesting tool from Adi Osmani at Google. We also created the ability to have a podcast feed, or making it easier, from views in Drupal 8, and we have some key contributed modules that we ended up using on the website, so you can see and learn from what we were able to figure out. So, this isn't my presentation. Here we go. I had some FAQs. I got these in the wrong order, but so frequently asked questions that I've got when I've done this. Can I use this with paragraphs? Is one that I've gotten a lot. Technically, yes, because you can put in any entity you want. I would recommend that you not do that, though. Layout Builder on its own is extremely flexible, and paragraphs adds a lot of performance overhead that you may not want to include. And not that Layout Builder doesn't have performance overhead as well, but it's a lot less than similar tools. One thing that Layout Builder is missing now is the ability to kind of protect the editor from making something that might break the page. You can't say, oh, this can only go in this kind of region, or this person can only add these kinds of blocks. Those kinds of controls are not available yet. You have to trust the person that you're giving Layout Builder to know how to add things and what to add and what not to add. The permissions aren't as granular, so it's kind of just you can use it or you can't. I believe they are revisionable right now, but the problem I've heard is since this is a serialized string stored in a field, revisioning them can increase the size of the revision table significantly very quickly. And I believe Matt Tift said, do you need revisions of layouts? Maybe not. Oh, and then the last thing I'd add is one question we've got is when to use this, when not to use this. For our use case and our general recommendation, like a landing page content type seems to be the best use case for it. Using it on every content type or using it to replace templates is, in my mind, less knowable. If you have the template for your article checked into Git, it has revisions, you can see who did what, you can track changes to it, but if the layout for certain content type is stored in Drupal, it's less knowable and it's harder to track. And I prefer code over configuration unless a person who doesn't know code needs to be able to modify it. But that might not be the reality for your team or your project. So now we have general Q&A where I'll have my helpful coworkers also answer questions. Is there anything I can answer? Oh,
that last bit that you just said about where layouts are stored versus where templates are stored.
Yeah, so I mean, if you have a Twig Drupal template, it's just code in your website. It's stored in Git. You can see the revisions and changes and all that. Whereas Layout Builder is not stored in config. It's considered content. It's stored in a field. So revisions and things are harder to track.
Maybe if I can clarify
Yeah.
a little bit. So there's a difference between, hey, I want to do layout on an individual page
Yeah.
versus I want to do layout for a whole content type. You can do both things.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can say, for this content type, I want to use Layout Builder to put where the fields go on every single page that uses that content type. That's a thing that you can do. But you can also do that with templates and stuff as well, like with general like front end themes.
And that's our in general recommendation that, you know, if you can use templates to style the full view mode for the article, that's probably going to be better in the long run than doing it with Layout Builder. But if you're having somebody that needs to edit the home or about page and they want to be able to do cool, awesome things, Layout Builder.
1,500 nodes, and I want to expose some data if it's there and hide it if it's not, which doesn't quite work right with fields. They'll still be blank spots. So I'm looking at putting views into nodes that be standard across all. That's what we need to know.
Yeah, I would definitely reach out to one of those guys after this.
Did that.
Huh?
So,
Well, hold, I think let's take some other questions.
yeah.
You had a question, ma'am?
Yeah, so are you able to drag around fields on the page or just blocks?
Yeah, the question is, are you able to drag around fields or just blocks? Yeah, fields behave just like blocks in that interface, so it's just one of the things that you can drag on there, and it has some options that you can add. The options for a field are different than a block, but yeah, but it's basically behaves the same.
And that is saved as content, right? That
Which part?
layouts change on that node will be saved as content.
Right.
not configuration.
Yeah, if you change the fields, either the field's content or the field's layout, both of those are saved as content in the node.
Is it a different table or what would that be saved?
I make the internet look pretty. I have no idea where it's stored in the database.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Any other questions that I can answer? Yeah.
Just curious, like in terms of how your team's working, is it sort of moving into this more kind of like use drag and drop? Is it changing your workflow or kind of like how your team thinks? Like there's actually design work that needs to start happening to some extent on the admin interface more so than sort of more traditional ways of working in Drupal? Have you seen any changes to workflow?
Yeah, so the question was having Layout Builder in this tool, is this changing our workflow or design process or that kind of thing? So I want to answer that in a couple different ways. I'm not entirely sure which way you meant it, but I think each answer is kind of a little interesting. So when we originally designed the admin, helped push along the admin interface UI in our theme, we did what we generally kind of do with Drupal, which is see what you get out of the box and make it look as good as possible. We didn't really have elaborate opinions about how Layout Builder UI should be. But I think what you were more asking was if a marketer if Ellie has a new effort and she wants to create a landing page, you know, do the designers think differently? How does our process change? So I will say with how we built this site, no designer was involved. Karen Stevenson, not a designer, made the entire page, looked slick. I think she had, you know, she ran it by someone, but it was kind of built the day before. So it was just kind of something we kind of slapped together really quickly and were able to show off the first time we did this talk. I think in the future, we're also hoping that we don't have to include the designers as much because they are also a bottleneck because they have to take their free time to help update the company website. So we're hoping that, you know, just with a little bit of guidance, you can say, oh, I want to do something, it's like this other page, I'll do that, and then show it to them and see if they run for the hill screaming or what. How about you guys? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Darren. Concurrently with the lullabot.com build that you've seen, Karen, who was helping engineer this, was also working on the Georgia.gov project alongside myself and Mark and several others. So a lot of the same tools that you're seeing there were used on Georgia.gov, but a little bit differently, because instead of people that we trusted to build landing pages, we had people that we didn't really trust to build landing pages. And instead of, we don't want designers involved, we had a really rigorous design system that we were trying to implement to prevent people from committing crimes within the website. And we didn't want them to be able to have any creativity at all. We wanted them to place a block and have it styled the way the system dictates and not have a lot of choices so that they could live within the design system and have a flexible page that they could build, but it wouldn't be something they could like decorate with. We don't do class selections and stuff like that. So we really stripped down what things you could place and tried to make sure the design system was cleanly implemented without a lot of selection. The change to the workflow for Georgia.gov is that they have been, because they're migrating many, many sites at once over the next year, they are starting to pilot landing pages in Layout Builder on a test environment and say, hey, new agency that's about to launch on the platform, do you like it like this or like that? Drag, drop. They didn't have to go all the way back to Sketch to design the page, mostly. And then, you know, if they see what works and what doesn't work, maybe they'll go back to Sketch and sort of perfect the thing they want. Maybe there's a feature then for us to build to add to Layout Builder, but it becomes a sort of a rapid prototyping tool for marketing pages or landing pages, home pages, that kind of a thing, once the design system is mature enough to support that. So
That's great, yeah, thanks. Yeah, question in the back.
So actually, I think it kind of follows on with the question. The answer he's already starting to get is I'm a back-end developer, a code kind of guy, and at the same time I understand why we have designs and why we have templates and why we have designers. And so one of my concerns, and this isn't just specifically a layout builder, but even with when you're dealing with panels or panelizer, in-place editing, is this type of thing. Like, you spent the time to build the website, it has a design over it, and then if you give people these types of tools and they can design the page any way that they want, it's not necessarily going to conform to the design. But it sounds like what you were just saying, because I know people are talking about paragraphs and what you can do with paragraphs.
Right.
It sounds like what you were just saying is that maybe with Layout Builder that gives you the ability to give them the power to design within a set of constraints. And is that something that's somewhat different from what you get when they're dealing with paragraphs?
I don't know if you can repeat that
So
question.
to repeat the question, the idea is that the question was, can you then use Layout Builder to allow people to design within constraints without deviating from them? And that is exactly what we're trying to do. The things that you can do with Layout Builder, I should also say as a caveat, we have maybe 25 content types on the Georgia.gov platform, and 2 of them use Layout Builder. So the vast majority of what we're doing is structured content with fields or WYSIWYG embeds. I should do a commercial and say the entity browser stuff that we showed that allows you to place nodes and micro content and stuff like that into Layout Builder is also being used on Georgia.gov to do entity embeds, so that the same like micro content promo thing where you add a photo and a title and a blurb is being placed in a WYSIWYG sometimes, and then also in Layout Builder, and can be reused back and forth between. So entity browser entity browser block are huge for this. But the basic idea being, most of the content the editors create is field by field in a normal node form, but only for these landing pages that are like meant to be transparent and drive people through to the actual resource that was a blog post or a contact or whatever. That's what these sort of high-touch pages are for, so that the marketing folks can give that first window dressing to it, and then it can move into the structured content.
In this Layout Builder, like I said, I'm a back-end guy. I haven't been doing much site building, so I don't know the strengths and weaknesses of the paragraphs. Is Layout Builder giving you more control over setting those constraints for designing the pages than Paragraphs does, or are you still able to set those same constraints?
I would say right now it has less, but I expect shortly that kind of stuff is going to be getting to contrib and be a lot easier to implement.
Okay.
Like Layout Builder doesn't let you put a constraint around, you can't put that block in that section
Right.
yet. Paragraphs does, but Paragraphs UX is arguably not as joyful to use for an editor who's not technical. And there are some performance concerns or the choices that they make that maybe aren't always appropriate for a particular application.
Yeah, thank you for the interesting presentation. I have a question regarding the layouts. Does it work with the revisions? Can the layout itself be part of the revision? So when you revert to revision, you also revert the layout?
Right. From what I understand from Matthew Tiff, it can be, but it makes the revision table go poof, because it's a serialized string storing a lot of data. But yeah, it is just stored like any other field right now.
As of 8.7, there's a checkbox at the bottom of the revision table that says make a new revision.
So you touched on this briefly, but I'm having an issue with the site right now that it's already up and running. I've enabled Layout Builder, and the layout interface is completely busted by all the styles. So is that something you all encountered? And
Yes.
And what did you do about it? What tricks?
There were no tricks. So we were in 8.6 before it was stable, and the UX issues were some of the last ones they solved before it was stable. So we patched quite a few things in our theme, and there wasn't like a default out there that we could go to. But now you can go and look at Bardic and steal some stuff from that. I don't know if it's in Classy or Bardic, but I would recommend just kind of taking some of the styles that are already there. They should be in a separate style sheet too, because that's how it's usually structured, and at least use that as a starting point, because we spent quite a few hours getting it right, because it was off when we started. Yeah.
Just a note to the number of contributed themes I noticed on the
Yeah.
bootstrap is
That's-
the top. Yeah.
that's-
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Which turned me off from it because it's just like as a full stack developer, you don't want to be bogged down by like fixing. You just
Right.
feel like it should. It's like panels, you know. The UX for it sucked, but overall, a lot of the contributed themes tried to play well with it.
Yeah.
And whereas this here, you've got this core feature of Drupal, but a lot of the contributed themes aren't really willing to play well with it.
Yeah. So the note for the recording, the note was that contributed themes and a lot of other things haven't really caught up and done that. I would expect that to happen soon, because everyone's pretty excited about this, I feel like. At least when they come to hear me talk.
I think this is going to use your front-end theme, because your theme have to be ready for this to work effectively.
Yes. Yeah. I think the default behaviors probably ought to work without you doing much, but you do have to have the CSS to handle this for sure.
Okay, one more question. Those taxonomy classes you showed,
Yep.
you said that was a custom module?
Yeah, that's something that we did. So it's basically we added a field to. I'm not sure what we added a field to, but
To the section. It's not an entity, it's actually under the hood. You have to
Okay.
allow settings on sections.
okay. So we added settings on sections apparently, and added a field to just select a term from a taxonomy that happens to be all of our CSS classes, and then in our theme we render it correctly as a class and not like a content field.
That's something you can share?
We've tried, yeah, we've tried to figure out a good way to share that, and Karen tried, and I believe Mateo tried, like two incredibly smart people, and they're like, it doesn't quite make sense as contrib. So yeah, so far no, but it is something that I think is cool, and it'd be cool if we could turn it into contrib.
One
Yeah.
question. So, layout builder, is it domain aware?
Is it what?
Is it domain access module aware? Like, can you choose content belong to a particular domains or something, or is it not there yet?
Domain access aware.
Is a contrib project. I don't believe, I haven't heard that it is,
Okay.
and it's new enough that maybe that integration hasn't been built in yet.
So this is more like, one of the questions somebody was asking, like if they have 1,500 nodes and you have to choose, so you have so many nodes there, and domain access where you have multiple sites. In the backend, it's all the same single database. What if somebody has 100,000 nodes?
Right.
And like, say, Georgia's example, where you have 100 sites, all like domain module, then if layout builder was domain aware, then it will only choose and show content belonging to that particular
Gotcha.
domain, but not other sites.
I'm not super familiar with the domain module, but I think there's potential that if it's views enabled, then something like Entity Browser Block can expose that views filter.
Okay.
So you could select content by that means, and Layout Builder wouldn't actually have to know about it.
Exactly.
But that may be something to explore. I can't say for sure one way or the other.
Oh, okay. That answers it.
Yeah.
You use Layout Builder to add a block to a page or a section on a page. Is there any way to query, figure out later on if that block, like what blocks are used on this page, or do you just lose track of that?
The question was, is there a way to tell what blocks have been added to layouts or across the site in a layout somewhere? I have no idea.
I think the short answer is no. I think the long answer is similar to what some of our projects have done with WYSIWYGs. When you embed an entity into the WYSIWYG, but you want to be able to track that usage, we have done hacks, basically like add an entity reference field that then you hide so it's not visible to the editor. And as you save, you drop a reference into it so that the reference is then countable by the normal like usage module kinds of tricks. So that may be a way to, there may be a way to do that, but I haven't seen it actually done yet. We have that same problem on Georgia. We like to count references to micro content, and we have yet to cross that bridge.
Yeah.
How does layout builder behave when you are working with export configuration and import configuration?
Sure. So the question was, how does Layout Builder work when you're exporting or importing configuration? It doesn't really care because it's considered content in the node. So, which is kind of unfortunate because we've had a thing where we wanted to create a piece of functionality that was going to end up being a page, and we had to get it like mostly baked, get it all the way up to prod, get a node that's not published, and then bring it back down to our local so we could finish development. So that's been the awkward thing, since it is considered content, not configuration. One, on the bright side, that could be tricky, but on the downside, it does sometimes make development a little hairy, where you kind of either have to recreate that layout over and over again, or
Like the default content module could conceivably preset
yes.
that.
We were thinking about using the default content module to do that, but then we ended up being like, meh. Yeah.
So with that, you can't really log down a block on a page that you can edit, right?
Lock it down?
Yeah, log it down so that they can move that specific block.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. So the question was, can you lock down certain things so they can't be moved? And yeah, those kinds of controls are not there yet. That kind of editorial. I mean, I'm not sure what you're able. It sounds like, are you just creating different block types and things so that if they add a thing of a type, it always has a certain template, or how's their controls in Georgia working?
In Georgia, every piece of microcontent is actually a node, which means that any browser block is used to like reference or create a new node of that particular microcontent type. So it runs right through the node rendering process, the same as any other node. So view display modes and all that stuff are available to you. But the permissions thing about, hey, I want to lock this in place is not something we've got yet.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
The changes you made on the content side, or
Yep.
layout builder, it's saved in config, right?
Yes.
It's the content side.
Right. Yeah. Anything in the managed display form is going to config.
Right, okay.
Yep. Any other questions?
I remember there is some kind of module, whether it's in the Drupal or Lightning, that allows you to have like staging and production environments. Does a layout builder work with it?
I mean, it depends if that module is able to move around content between environments. Yeah, conceivably.
No,
But
it's kind of like create like a virtual environment within the website.
Workspace.
oh, so like content staging on the same actual environment. Oh, yeah. So I'm not sure. So the question was, does Layout Builder work with something that helps you stage content that might be in Lightning or might just be a module? I'm not sure. I mean, since it is just a content field, conceivably, but yeah. And like you saw, if I didn't save it, it just kind of stuck around. I'm actually not sure where that temporary information is stored. Like, if you cleared cache, your local cache, is it gone? Or I don't know. But yeah, good question. Okay, I think we're actually out of time. Thank you very much.